All that when he's just 20, she said. But I know I probably look young and I am young and that comes across a lot. So yesterday also I went to collect this award 25 under 25. And while introducing me, the person said, we are giving an award to 25 under 25, not 25 under 15. And the entire auditorium roared in laughter. And I was like, chill, chill, it's okay, I'm just 20, so it doesn't matter. Age doesn't matter really. Um, Firstly, thank you SRM for inviting me to speak here. This is my second TED talk. And you know, every time before a talk, you think, what the structure of the talk, how are you gonna spread an idea, how are you gonna give across an idea that can be lapped up by the public, that can influence them to do something. And I think the idea is the more important thing rather than the structure of the talk or the language of the talk or where it's being spoken. It doesn't matter whether I'm talking to, for example, a bunch of students in Tokyo and giving an idea about my magazine, or speaking in an engineering college and talking about writing as a literary option. My talk today is about how writing and literature can actually be a valid career option for people in India. You know, there are these aunties who come to your home, borrowing milk or onions or whatever, and they ask you, so beta, what are you doing these days? And I know the way these aunties' minds work, okay? So I want to play with them back. What I do is, oh, writing. And they're like, oh, okay, what do you write? And I meant for a job, and you know, where are you working? I just said, oh, writing. And these aunties then just borrow whatever they came for and then they leave because they don't have anything to say further, right? They just go and, you know, talk about that he writes. That's what he does, he writes. And I'll tell you another example. So all of you guys have probably watched Three Idiots, right? So I was watching that movie with 15 people from my family and about 20 relatives and uncles and aunties and everyone. There comes a time when Kareena Kapoor says, Dad, Bhaiya didn't want to be an engineer, he wanted to be a writer. Okay? When this line happened, when she said this, everyone sitting in the theater goes and looks at me. I'm like, what's the big deal? Okay, everyone wants to be something, but those faces, like, you know, you hear the word writer, he wants to be a writer, and they're like, and I was, okay, so, you know, the problems you face in an Indian society, typical middle class parents. And my father actually is a nuclear scientist. And he works as a nuclear scientist at the Bhabha Atomic Research Center in Bombay. So it's even more difficult to, you know, convince your dad that I want to do literature, I want to do writing. And the general theory and the general misconception is that it does not pay. You know, all your life you hear about writers that, you know, don't earn and are alcoholics, live in poverty and all that. We are alcoholics, but we don't live in poverty anymore. Not in this country at least. Publishing everywhere in the world is going down, as the other speakers also mentioned. In the West, in India, it's actually a booming industry. It's growing at about 20 to 25%, which is a huge percentage, right? And there are literary festivals coming up all over the place, all over the country. There are 80 literary festivals in the country right now, out of which the Jaipur Literary Fest, I'm sure all of you guys have heard about it, is the biggest in the world. There are like 3 lakh people attending it every year. There are writers coming out of Tier 2 cities, Tier 3 cities, small towns across the country. Now these writers have a venue. The internet is connecting them to all the places in the country and abroad. A writer from a small town in Jharkhand, he was a medical doctor in a municipal hospital. His name is Hansda. He's a good friend of mine now. He wrote this book, The Mysterious Ailment of someone, I don't remember the name. So this book was written in a small town in Jharkhand. And it went on to become so huge, it was bought by a major international publisher. It went on to win the Hindu Lit Prize, which also happened somewhere in Chennai. So it's not that, you know, the town you are, the city you are, the profession you are in that can hamper your literary side. Back then what used to happen was people say that if you want to be a writer, you should have a proper job first and you can always do writing side by side as a second option. Today, what I want to say is the way it's changing, you can do writing as your primary job, earn shitloads of money, and yet, you know, have a second viable option, which is what used to be writing in the back desk could be something else now, right? And I'll give you an example. If you are doing writing, my literary professor in New York earns about $85,000 a year. Okay, that comes to about 5 to 6 lakhs a month. that's the amount of money that goes to pay these creative writing professors, which is not there in India at the moment. One of the things what I want to do personally in my own life is after finishing my graduation abroad, I want to come back to India. I want to design and pitch to these universities and colleges that there are writers coming, ambitious young writers who want to do something about it, want to make it a profession. It shouldn't just be a hobby. That it shouldn't be that you can only do it as a hobby. So I want to pitch to these universities that if you can set up a creative writing department, you can have just 30 people. Your fees wouldn't be that sky high because you don't need infrastructure. You don't need IT labs. You don't need Macs to write. You just need a notebook and a pencil and a classroom. It's a very cheap option. I don't know why people are not doing it. Why universities are not doing it, considering that the way Indian writing is growing. The second thing which is very important to note nowadays is that the writers who write in English currently stay in India. Back then you pick up any great writers, Salman Rushdie, Jhopal Lahiri, Amitabh Ghosh, they all study here, live here, and then they go abroad and settle. They write from there. The theory is that a person who's been living abroad for 20 years, what can he, write about India that will give him credibility? I'm not saying that those are not good writers, but today you can stay in India, right? All the big cities pay you well enough to be a writer. Going by, the process which goes into the writing a book and getting it out to publishers, there are about 30 mainstream publishers in the country, up from about 5 a decade back. And these publishers are looking for young voices more than the already established voices. They would give you anything for a good college campus romance. They would give you anything for something like a crime thriller set in your local city. I read a very good book which came from, I think, Patna. And it was a crime thriller, very basic, very simple. But there is a crowd in Patna which wants to read it, which makes it a bestseller, which makes it worthwhile to have as a source of income. So I am a journalism student. I did a lot of reporting. I worked as a crime reporter with Mumbai Mirror. I worked as a features writer with DNA and all these newspapers. And that gave me a sort of an insight into reporting and writing about people and converting it into fiction. So I realized that in this country, there are 10 English literary magazines. If you compare that to any other city in the world, especially the West, you have 800 in New York City alone. You have about 500 in London alone. Compare that with 10 literary magazines in the country. That's a very, very small number. You're comparing a city with a country here. And this country has 1.3 billion, 4 billion by now, I guess, people. And so there's a huge difference. And I did my bit. I thought, I should start a magazine. I want to give a creative writing platform for people who want to do this, who have not been able to do this, but who want to do this. So that's how I founded the magazine I currently run. It's called the Bombay Review. And we publish short fiction and poetry. And we decided long back that we won't venture into photo essays and reviews and all those other kind of things. We wanted it to be a literary magazine. It was started in a small college room with 5 people, 6 people at the most. These people started it voluntarily. All of us worked and thought, we'll make it a magazine, we'll run a blog-like thing online, we'll publish print books once a year. And it's a small team, 5-member team, no money involved, no financial transactions involved. Gradually, it became, the word of mouth spread, and we spread to, right now, our readership comes from 95 countries. Okay, people in countries like Somalia are reading the Bombay Review. We get more hits from Somalia than we actually get from, say, Mumbai. Okay, that's a major margin. Somalia, Nigeria, France, Ireland, US, Pakistan, Bangladesh, all these countries where you think that English literature is not there is a major misconception. Who would have thought that a country like Nigeria where Boko Haram is plaguing and there's terrorism, there's civil war, everything's going on, who would think that these people want to read English literature? Even more, literature is actually coming out from South Asia, right? And I actually had a conversation with a Nigerian reader and writer of mine, and he said, we all love reading, but there are not enough avenues here, there are not enough books. So we turned to India. And the Indian books they read have a tone of the local language as well. The way Indian books are written, it's written in Indian English, as opposed to the English which comes out from London. So this guy has been reading a lot of Indian books, and today when I was talking to him, he said I'm learning Hindi and Telugu too, dheere dheere. Okay. This is a Nigerian guy who doesn't know our language, and he used dheere dheere. And I was so impressed with it that the work which is being done in India can actually be read as far as Nigeria, and that is what helped us continue this growth. We approach people in, say, Paris, and we tell them, this is the magazine I run, this is what we do. We would love it if you conducted a literary event, did a few readings, called some writer to interact with the people, and these people want to do it. They don't want money. Everyone is interested in doing it because the market is expanding. So a lot of our teams, we have a team in Nigeria, and now France and Ireland in a few months. These people work for us for the name of our magazine, all for free. It's just the common love for literature. So we have expanded to a bunch of countries, won a bunch of awards and everything. But more than any of this, what keeps us going, because no financial structure is involved, we don't pay anyone who works for us. I don't get paid. I have put in zero investment into the magazine. That is what keeps us going, It's purely out of passion. It's purely out of love for literature. So that's the thing. People say that if you love something and you do something about it, you will do good. But Indian parents also think that if you love, say, dancing, whatever you do, you're not going to get paid out of it. If you love, let's say, classical instrumental music, you can play it side by side, but you're not going to earn anything out of it. That's changing. All of these literary and other creative fields, painting, art, animation, graphic designing, comic books, everything is increasing at such a pace that you can actually make a career out of it, and you won't be, you might not be as super rich as one of those famous writers and everyone, but you can still sustain a good income and good family life, So that brings me to this figure value of how much can a writer earn. I'll give you my example. I didn't earn anything till about 1 year back, since I was just studying. I finished my undergrad, I went abroad, and after going abroad and the way the magazine has been running and growing and everything, I got an offer to teach creative writing at a university in Delhi. Okay, it comes under a DU, and they said you can structure the creative writing department, you can do it, and I am 22. The students will be elder than me, right? I'll be 22 and I'll be doing this. So what I want to say, if I am 20, I haven't written a single book. I just write short stories. I just started this one thing, this one magazine, which changed everything, right? A lot of times, a lot of us students have some idea in our mind that dies because we don't tell it to anyone, because we think that, I don't want to try this out right now, I'll try it when I have a good source of income. Some people don't do it because they're like, we'll have time later on. A lot of these issues go into, killing that idea. But the most important one being the lack of an ear to listen to your idea. If your idea is just in your head, it dies there. If you have not started implementing it, you can at least tell it to someone. When you voice it out, it's in the air, 2 people have heard it, the idea stays for a longer time. All of us college students have these huge, big ideas. We all kill it. We all kill it all the time. I went to my college professor with the idea of the magazine, and I wanted funding, a little bit of funding to make it into a print magazine, and he said no. This was about 2.5 years back. Right now, I was talking to him, I gave a lecture in his college yesterday, and I was talking to him, and we were discussing how that not giving the funding has actually helped us become what we are today. If we had gotten that funding, we would have just been like any of them, out there, all young startups. My friend actually calls startups as, suck-ups or something, failure-ups or something, he gave a name to it. And that's not it. Startups need need a considerable amount of dedication, passion, energy, but it does have the potential to make it big. Do you want to take a risk right now, or do you want to, sit back 10 years later and think about that you have not done this thing? I would have cried about this if I had not started that magazine. So I started it, and it was nothing where I wanted it to be. It was just a small blog which I started. Another friend of mine who has actually given a talk here, I think, he started a college blog called, I think, Campus Blog or something. And it was about confessions. You remember the whole 2 years back, the confessions pages that started coming up in different colleges. he started that, okay, just one confession page. 2 years later, there were hundreds and hundreds of mails he was receiving, and he got an offer to sell that blog for 50 lakhs. That's a huge money for a college thing you're just doing for fun, for the heck of it, right? So he sold off the company. He became an instant, rich guy. He started traveling all over the world, and so that's how a small idea like that as well, just a confessions page, that as well can make it big if you work on it, right? This is what I want to say. My idea was something very simple. There are many literary magazines in the country. That doesn't mean this would have stood out. It's just that we went ahead with it, we talked it out, we formalized it, and we did it. That's what really made us reach all those countries by word of mouth. I don't want to take too much of your time. I want to end this talk with this one concept I have about running something new. If you have an idea, the basis of this idea should be to make it last for 2 years and then taking it somewhere on a financial and registered scale. So for the first 2 years, like I said, all the work at the magazine was done for free. Everyone involved was free. Everyone involved was working for free. But today, we are all at a point where if we sell the magazine for say 60 to 70 lakhs, we would actually be making about 15 lakhs out of this effort. And that's a huge sum of money. So if we had thought about this before, when we were launching that this is what we want to do, we want to get money out of this, and we will get money out of this if we make it big, then it wouldn't have worked. You just start something, you let it grow at its own pace, you work hard at it. Later, 2 years later, when money is not in the picture, that's when these offers start coming in. That's when you feel happy, because this wasn't your main aim. And if the money is pushed in, that's when you become happy, right? That what I did is worth something today. There's a market value to it. So don't do it for the money. Don't start something for the money. Just let it grow, but it will pay you back because you've been dedicated in it. You have done it for 2 years, 3 years. And mine has not even been there for 2 years. Okay, the Bombay Review was, the first issue came out in August 2014. So it's been 1.5 years. And right now I would say that where the magazine is, I'm very comfortable with it. I don't want it to grow too far ahead that we would be involved in financial processes, registration, distribution, retail, all that. But it's still at a place where people are reading it all over the country, everywhere abroad. And that's what makes it worth it, I think. Thank you.